India is building a stealth fighter jet, and right now, it cannot finish it because nobody will hand over one critical piece of technology. That missing piece is the engine, and Russia just offered India something Western countries have refused to give for years. This single decision could change the future of Indian air power, and it says a lot about where global alliances are shifting. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why an engine, not a missile or a radar, is holding back an entire fighter jet program, and why Russia's offer is being treated as one of the most significant proposals in India's aerospace history. Let's start with the aircraft itself, because this jet is more ambitious than most people realize. The Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, or AMCA, is India's indigenous fifth-generation stealth fighter, developed by the Aeronautical Development Agency. It is a twin-engine aircraft in the roughly 25-ton class, meant to become the future backbone of both the Indian Air Force and Indian Navy. Some defense analysts even call it a 5.5-generation design, because parts of it exceed baseline fifth-generation standards. But an advanced airframe means nothing without an engine powerful enough to fly it, and that is exactly where India got stuck. India's Defense Research and Development Organization set a requirement for an engine in the 110 kN thrust class, with afterburner. That engine also needs to operate reliably across an extreme temperature range, and ideally be built domestically to cut foreign dependency. The problem is simple: India currently has no proven indigenous engine anywhere close to that class. The first version, AMT Mark I, is planned around the American GE F4114 engine, the same engine already used on India's Tejas Mark II. AMK Mark II is supposed to use something more powerful, ideally developed jointly with a foreign partner, and that is where talks began. India approached Western manufacturers first, holding discussions with General Electric in the United States, Safran in France, and Rolls-Royce in the United Kingdom. On paper, these talks looked promising, offering co-development and technology transfer for the more powerful Mark II engine. In practice, Indian officials and engineers grew frustrated with how little was actually being shared. Western proposals consistently stopped short of handing over what engineers call core technology. That means hot section design, single crystal turbine blade metallurgy, and advanced digital engine control systems, the parts that actually make an engine world-class. Without access to that core technology, India would gain very little real indigenous capability, no matter how many meetings were held. That frustration is exactly the gap Russia decided to step into. Russia's state defense conglomerate Rostec, through its United Engine Corporation subsidiary, offered India access to technology from its AL-51F1 engine. That engine, also known as Izdaliai-30 or Product 30, was developed for Russia's own Su-57 stealth fighter. Unlike the Western offers, reports describe the Russian proposal as sharing genuine engineering expertise and design knowledge, not just selling a finished engine. The stated goal was to help India build its own indigenous engine capability, rather than keep India as a permanent customer. The AL-51F1 itself is no simple engine. It includes a digital engine control system and a plasma ignition system, both real advances over earlier Russian designs. In dry mode, without afterburner, it produces roughly 11,000 kg force of thrust. With afterburner engaged, that climbs to around 18,000 kg force, figures that convert to roughly 108 to 176 kilonewtons depending on mode. Alongside that offer, Rostec's United Engine Corporation also promoted a second engine called Product 177S. The 77S is a hybrid, combining elements of the older AL-41F1, which already powers India's Su-30 MKI fleet, with technology drawn from the newer AL-51 line. It is pitched at a maximum thrust of roughly 142 to 146 kilonewtons. It also offers an extended service life of up to around 6,000 hours, longer than the AL-31FP engines currently used on India's Su-30 MKI jets. On top of that, Russian officials report fuel efficiency gains of at least 7% compared to those older engines. Russian Ambassador Denis Alipov has publicly signaled Moscow's willingness to cooperate with India on advanced engine technology as part of a broader defense relationship. So why would Russia offer India something this comprehensive, when Western partners would not? Analysts frame it as a reflection of Moscow's reduced access to Western markets and its interest in deepening strategic ties with India right now. Western suppliers, by contrast, have historically been more protective of frontier propulsion technology, even with allied nations they already trust. That contrast is exactly why India's Ministry of Defense has reportedly opened the door to including Russia formally in AMCA engine negotiations. Earlier public discussion around AMC centered almost entirely on Western suppliers, which makes this shift genuinely significant. Indian defense engineers have reportedly described the scope of the Russian proposal as among the most comprehensive engine offers India has ever received. That is a strong statement, considering India has spent decades building relationships with American, French, and British defense manufacturers. But accepting the Russian offer is not a simple decision, and defense analysts are cautious for good reason. Switching engine tracks at this stage could introduce program delays, integration risk, and added cost to a program that is already years into development. India's current roadmap still leans toward the GE F4114 for AMCA Mark I, and continued talks with Safran for Mark II development. So the Russian offer does not replace those existing plans, it sits alongside them as a new option on the table. Whether India ultimately accepts, rejects, or blends the Russian offer with its Western talks remains completely unresolved right now. Observers say that decision depends more on broader geopolitics than on engineering merit alone. India is balancing relationships with the United States, Europe, and Russia at the exact same time, and each partner brings different strings attached. Choosing Russia's engine technology could strengthen ties with Moscow while complicating relationships with Western defense partners India also relies on. Choosing to stay purely Western could mean waiting longer for real core technology transfer, if it ever fully arrives at all. Either path affects far more than one engine, it affects how independent India's entire future fighter program actually becomes. An indigenous engine is not just a technical milestone, it removes a foreign dependency that could otherwise be used as leverage during a crisis. That is why engineers, not just diplomats, are watching this decision so closely right now. A 25-ton stealth fighter, a 110 kilonewton requirement, and two competing offers from opposite sides of the globe. This single-engine decision could shape Indian air power for the next 30 years, whichever direction it ultimately goes. So which offer do you think India should take, the cautious Western path or the more comprehensive Russian one? Because this is not the only major weapons deal reshaping alliances in Asia right now. There is another defense negotiation happening in the region that could matter even more, and almost nobody is talking about it yet. We are covering that story next, so go watch that video to see exactly what is happening behind the scenes.